I'm just here for fun, but I'm kind of so far out of my depth. It doesn't matter. I'm going to sit at the back and not get in anyone's way, and yeah, I'm just going to try to have fun. Well, I will have fun. Anyway, I'll do a little bit more warming up. My legs are like jelly, but that could also be because I'm nervous as well. But yeah, let's give this a go. Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Andrew Rosbrook, and the clip you just saw was also Andrew Rosbrook. Me, in other words, just about half an hour before the start of the Ontario mountain bike race in Uxbridge at the Trail Hub. If you're new to my channel, then I probably should give this video a tiny bit of context and the reason why I'm called the cardiac cyclist. About 10 years ago, I was very near the end of a half marathon when I collapsed, had a cardiac arrest, and I was without a pulse for 7 minutes. Obviously I did pretty well, I survived, and I've got right back into physical fitness again. About 3 years ago I got into cycling, and more recently I've started to enjoy mountain biking. And I think a part of the reason for it was that when I started I was really bad, and in the 8-9 months that I've been doing it, I've gone from really bad to just bad. So that improvement has really kind of spurred me on. And being someone who enjoys being involved in different events, I decided to enter a mountain bike race. Because I've had a cardiac arrest, I do pay very close attention to both my blood pressure and my heart rate, especially while exercising. And regarding my heart rate, I have specific limits that I've set myself, and when I reach those limits, I look for the first opportunity to bring my heart rate down again. And this has been something I've been very successful doing in all of my races up until now. This race was put on by Substance Projects, and it's part of a 5-race series called Ontario. This particular one was at the Trail Hub in Uxbridge, which is on the site of an old ski hill. The volunteers and the organisers of this event are just absolutely fantastic. It's got a real grassroots family-like feel to it, and the course is so well set up it's just about impossible to go off course, although a couple of times I thought I had. The start is on a short, sharp hill, and as with all my other races, I took the start pretty easy, and so when I looked up, just about everyone else had just totally vanished. After the hill you get this flowing downhill, and I kind of settled into my pace and sort of felt I was going okay. I knew I wasn't going as fast as the others, but I thought I was doing decent, and then this absolute legend goes by me. He's going like Tom Pidcock, I'm like Pee Wee Herman, and he just sort of disappears. I was keeping the others in sight, not too far ahead, and then we got to a sharp right hand turn, and that led into what I thought was a real set of tight little turning switchbacks. After I got into this section, I kind of got into my rhythm, and it's actually started feeling pretty good. And I was thinking to myself that I felt I was actually riding this as well as I've ridden any tight, flat single track like this. I even thought that I might actually be catching up with the others, and then when I looked up, they'd just all totally vanished. And it dawned on me that, yeah, technically I was a long way behind the skill level of everybody else. Because I was technically so far behind, I was having to push on really hard in these sections, and I noticed my heart rate at this point for the first time, and it was already over 150. And then we moved into this section, which I really enjoyed, but found so difficult. It was a series of berms, and then between the berms that weren't too tight, I've got to admit, between the berms there were gullies. So you would drop down into the gully, and then you would go up the bank on the other side, around the berm, and then repeat, and it went on for quite a while. Now, when I get my skill level up, this is the sort of thing that I'm really looking forward to riding and flowing through. But you can see here,
every time I come to the top of a berm, it's almost like it's putting the brakes on me. I'm not doing the turns smoothly, and so this is just absolutely sapping my energy. As you can imagine, I didn't even dare look at my heart rate monitor at this point, but I could guess that it was probably getting pretty high. Despite me really struggling with this particular feature, it has excited me, and I'm kind of really looking forward to returning to the Trail Hub and trying this feature until I can at least do it somewhat efficiently. After the berms, we went back to flat switchbacks, and again, it's not really offering me much opportunity to get my heart rate in check. But after not too long, you turn a corner, and then there was really the one only consistent portion of flat on the whole course. Here I was able to focus on my heart rate and trying to get it down to a reasonable level, and I got it back down to 150 beats a minute. But coincidentally, 150 beats a minute was the peak heart rate that I'd reached in Reggie Ramble, and then in the Paris to Ancaster race earlier in the year, my peak heart rate had been 154. So that being my pretty much lowest heart rate on this day was beginning to start to cause me some concern, especially seeing as I knew what was coming up next. I had to climb back up the ski hill by way of a whole series of switchbacks. A few months ago I was doing a controlled session on the indoor trainer, and at that time I estimated that my peak heart rate was probably somewhere around 165 to 167 beats per minute. So as I hit these switchbacks, I had that in mind. Now the switchbacks themselves weren't too steep, but for me at least, and probably not for a skilled mountain biker, but for me anyway, the switchbacks themselves were quite tight. So every time I came to a tight turn, it would be like I would have to be starting up again. And now I looked at my my heart rate monitor, and I started to get quite concerned. I had hit 160, and I'd still got quite a bit of climbing to do. I should point out that, my breathing was really pretty laboured, and that's kind of usual for me these days. And my legs were fairly tired and heavy, but there was still, a decent amount of life left in them. But my chest, my heart, my chest, there was no discomfort at all. And if it weren't for my history, and if it weren't for my rising heart rate at this particular time, I wouldn't have been unduly concerned at all. With each beat per minute that my heart rate increased, the chances of me making the sensible decision grew more and more. And once you emerge from the trees and once you finish the switchbacks, you feel psychologically as though you should be almost there, but the next couple of sections of straight up hills were even more difficult. I think it was just here when I just turned this corner that I looked down and I'd hit my maximum heart rate, which was 164 beats a minute. And I think that's why I wobbled into that tree slightly. And then as I turned this next corner, I observed at the top of the hill my wife and that's when I knew that I should make the decision not to push my heart rate any higher. Almost as soon as I sat down, a really kind lady came over just to check that I was okay, and I wanted to allay her concerns by saying to her, you know, I have a heart condition, and so I'm exercising an abundance of caution, and that's why I've stopped, because, you know, my heart rate was a little bit high, but I'm actually absolutely fine. But what I actually said was,
I have a heart condition.
and I think this just kind of caused her even more concern. Anyway, we walked down towards the start-finish area, which was a very short distance away, and my heart rate came down really rapidly. I felt fine straight away. There were no ill effects. What did I learn from this race? Well, the major thing I learned was that if I can become more efficient in the technical areas, then that's going to have two effects. One, I will be slightly quicker in those technical areas, but the other thing is I won't be fighting against them so much. Hopefully I'll be able to flow through them, and that'll mean that I can conserve a bit more of my energy so that I can have an all-round better race. And the other thing I learned, well, to be honest, I didn't learn it, I already knew this, is that life is very different, you know, once you've had a cardiac arrest and once you have that sort of like looking over your shoulder all the time. I used to really enjoy pushing myself really hard, you know, quite often to the point where at the end of a race I'd be lying on the floor puffing and panting and trying to get myself composed again. I can't do that. I have to stick to these limits that I've set myself. They are fairly arbitrary, and they're all based on the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, I believe that my maximum heart rate is somewhere between 165 to 167 beats a minute. But in a race, normally, if I see my pulse hit 155, I do look for that immediate opportunity to bring my pulse rate down again. And in the two races that I've done this year before this, which is the Paris to Ancaster and the Reggie Ramble, my heart rate has been more or less around 135 to 140 beats a minute for the majority of the race, and then it'll climb as I climb. This race was the first time that I really had to test whether I could call it quits if my pulse was getting concerningly high. I was happy to test that out and to realise that I can actually do that, but much more importantly, my wife was happy. She now knows that if I ever am in a situation where it is getting to a point where my heart rate is too high, you know, I'm not going to become all egotistical and refuse to quit. I am quite happy to do the sensible thing. I most certainly haven't given up the idea of doing a mountain bike race. I probably won't be doing one this year. I just don't think I've got the time this year with a couple of other things that I want to do. But next year for sure. And I'm pretty certain that I will be coming back to another Substance Projects event. It's such a wonderful atmosphere. Everyone was great. And I really want to also say thank you very much to Dan Marshall, who is the organizer of the event. You did an amazing job and you're incredibly hospitable. That is just about a wrap on this video. I do hope you enjoyed watching me suffer. If you did, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. I'd really like to hit that target within the next month or two. And remember, look after yourselves, listen to your bodies. Your families, they don't need a hero, they just need you. I'm really looking forward to my next race in 2 weeks' time, which is the Eager Beaver Gravel Race. Hopefully I'll see you there. If not, I shall see you on the next ride.